Well, it's Daybreak on Horizon, and it's time for the press preview. First, look at what's on the front pages of the papers, and we start usually with our own sister publication, This Day newspaper. What does it have on its front page? It says INEC, electoral process incomplete without Offences Commission. It has some riders. Their backs bill seeking establishment of electoral court. Asks AGF to steer clear. Says it secured 60 convictions in 125 cases from 2015 elections. That's more than half. EFCC rejects bill as plaque request reduced penalty for ballot snatching. Reduced penalty. But the electoral crimes help riggers take control of governments. Let's look at some other stories there. Lamido. No one has offended Wike. No basis, therefore, for reconciliation with some writer says being governor doesn't give him monopoly over Rivers. Atiku, Rivers governor, to meet in Paris. Amid rumor, the latter is flirting with Tinubu. I think one of the papers has it, we'll get there, that he has a meeting. He met with Tinubu with some governors. All right, China to pick 17 African countries for debt forgiveness. Offers $10 billion to IMF funds. Let's leave it there for now.
The Punch newspaper is focusing on the presidential race. Tinubu, Wike meet in the UK. PDP talks wobble. PDP assembles 100 witnesses, says Oyetola's petition time wasting. And this recovered a Bata loot hits $334 million. US condemns corruption. ASU parents propose 10,000 naira support levy for varsities.
And in the Nation newspaper, this is actually quite surprising. Not the one I'm going to read first. PDP crisis still the same. Stop bragging, Lamido tells Wike and his supporters. Ex-governor falls PDP BOT chair stand on party leadership. Then if you just look below that picture, ASU plans indefinite strike. I'm sure Emmanuel will talk about this indefinite strike. I don't understand what that is. Congress ends 123 branches today. Are they saying that our students will no more go to school? Well, we'll bring in Emmanuel later. And then on the top mast, INEC EFCC disagree on Electoral Offences Commission bill. $33 million per deal. Finance power ministers to face reps. And Nigeria-US sign pact on return of $23.4 million Abacha loot.
The Daily Sun, ballot snatchers, vote buyers risk 15 years jail terms. PDP Board of Trustee chair insists IU should go. And IPOB goes after kidnappers of 4 Reverend sisters. Well, the latest on that is that those Reverend sisters have regained their freedom.
Oh, good. All right, The Guardian. Wike raises stake, leads PDP governors to meet Tinubu. It says Obi meets Afenifere leader Debanjo in Lagos. Northwest states indifferent to 2023 elections over insecurity, and Shetima Shoyinka, same fake ticket, controversial, ill-timed. Why Tinubu deserves to be next president. This is coming from the APC presidential campaign spokesperson, Keyamo.
Quickly now, the international papers. This is the Financial Times. Shielding families from fuel bill. Shark reckoned to cost £100 billion. And the Twitter hit extent of fake accounts and data flaws. That's according to a whistleblower. And then on the I newspaper, youngest victim of gangland killing, such a pity. And then Gove has smelled the sewage and run. Blame him for Cummings and Brexit. The Guardian now, fury as grain giants profit from unjust hunger crisis. And the Times, Red Arrows engulfed by bullying and assault now. Right? So we're bringing Emmanuel, good morning. Glad to have you join us.
Good morning.
This morning, yeah? Okay, so let's look at some stories on the front page of this daily newspaper. The INEC electoral process incomplete without Offences Commission, a battle between INEC and EFCC. Then Lamido, no one has offended Wike, no basis for reconciliation. Then the writer says being governor doesn't give him monopoly over rivers. Well, that's supposed to be true. Atiku Rivers governor to meet in Paris. Over to you, Emmanuel.
Well, Lamido might be right to say, look, no one offended Wike, but Wike is offended right now. And I think they just need, the PDP needs to know how to walk around the Wike situation. But Lamido, what Lamido I think is sounding here is sounding tough and saying that, look, it's beyond an individual, it's a party thing. And but that Wike will not hold the party to ransom. Whether PDP likes it or not, this is a really, really huge problem in its hand. And the Wike is hugely popular in Rivers, and so even if he does not hold the fate of Rivers people and does not control those votes like the way Lamido was trying to say, Wike is not a pushover in Rivers politics. But what Lamido is saying is that, look, no one actually, and he's right, no one actually offended him at an individual level. For instance, it's not as if Atiku says something bad to him. It's not as if anybody in the PDP says something nasty to him. It's just that there was a convention and he lost. The losing, Wike initially remembered indeed that, look, Wike blamed it first and foremost on the southern governors. He said they betrayed him, and then later he shifted to say it is the entire party that betrayed him. But right now he has a new fight, which is the fact that, look, he's positioning himself as a defender of balance, of equity, of justice, and saying that, look, you can't have the party leadership or the party candidate from the north and still have the national chairman from the north. He's saying you have to concede the order. So that's his new fight. He seemed to have moved away slightly from his annoyance and anger that he did not emerge, and now he's positioned himself saying, look, let the party do what is right. And if Atiku calls himself the unifier, if Atiku is talking about balance, if Atiku is talking about running a country, uniting the country towards a common purpose, he will probably look into that. And Wike is getting some fans already. The BOT of the party say, yes, it's true. Ayu should go. Ayu should be able to go, so that not only that Wike should be at peace, but that there should be some kind of balance. So the papers are watched with the stories of Wike moves to whether he's going to, nobody knows decisively if he's decamping, if he's going to defect to the APC. But
and you asked that, and I said to you, politicians can do anything.
They can, but they have to do things with with reasons. I mean, it's almost unimaginable to think that, like Lamido is saying in this story, Wike has got a candidate in the PDP. He will need to deliver as governor, for instance. He will need to deliver other offices. When you attack the party or you attack its presidential candidate, you send divisive kind of messages, mixed messages to your base. It's difficult after that to actually say vote for the governor, but don't vote for the president. Most candidates would rather go with the entire team, and that's part of the crisis that I think Wike will be dealing with.
Well, Emmanuel, if he does lose out on both sides, he can get to the studio. I've been seeing clips around him making music. But away from that,
really, well, I saw him dancing, but not making music.
Fair,
he has a band he goes around with that plays songs right after his speech.
Those are his hype men.
Okay, we should expect an album if things don't go well. Still in this day, Emmanuel, federal government, U.S. signed agreement on repatriation of $23 million Abacha loot. That's on page 34 if you want to read that. Emmanuel, help us make sense of how much the late dictator stole, because there's a generation of Nigerians, the Gen Z and Generation Alpha, who probably every other year they get to hear about loot being returned by a certain dictator.
You're right, Kenneth, and they can't connect the dots, but it's a historical situation here that we had a dictator one time, and those monies are generally loosely called Abacha loot, monies that were sent abroad. And now, probably out of conscience, out of negotiation, maybe out of diplomacy even, we're getting those monies back. and so some of them have returned again. So it's a drip situation. From time to time, you have some of those monies returning, but the big question that Kenneth, you pointed to, the new generation will be asking is that what happens to this money? The Abacha themselves has a history behind it, but what we should be looking at now is, okay, so what do we do with the monies? The Attorney General who said these monies are under his care, or there's a fund for it where those monies are returned. They say these monies will be used for infrastructure, because that would be the only thing that is new about this story. It's not just the return, but what now this government is responsibly, transparently doing with the loot. Are they being relooted, or they're being used very well? So those are the issues that I think we should interrogate. And when this loot return, we should be able to stay on the story to ask the big question of what are we using these monies for?
As a proviso there, that they must use it for infrastructure. There's rating there that the government must use it for that. All right, let's look at the nation. Two stories jump out of the front page. Of course, Wiki, we talked about Wiki. ASU plans indefinite strike. Help us understand that. And then flooding. Presidency queries states on ecological funds. This is very important.
It is. The ecological fund thing. It's very important, because just like the security votes, these are monies that state governors receive from time to time. It's an area that we've not really beam our searchlight on, ecological funds. Some monies that have not been used. And then you have all those real serious ecological crises around the state, whether it is flooding, whether it's erosions of huge magnitude. And then you begin to ask yourself, what do they do with the ecological fund? I think in the last reading, almost every state gets a chunk of those amount. But it's part of the crisis of the federation itself, of the federation accounts, and the relationship between the federal government on one hand and the states, how monies are used. Take, for instance, the security votes. Huge sum of money going to states, and then the governors will throw up their hand in the air and say, we have no control over our security apparatus. We are not the real chief security officers of state. Thank God that recently everybody has questioned the roles of this money. And so the ecological funds to come in handy in the question. And then also, of course, yesterday we said that, look, it's come to that now that we need to plead with us. We need to beg us to say, look, consider the fate of, your wards, consider the fate of education, consider the future. If the politician can look at the next generation and they're more concerned about the next election, ASU should go higher and think of the next generation and help out. I think we have come to a point where those that are negotiating are not very serious. I mean, the government. So now, a lot of voices are beginning to ask ASU to reconsider, maybe out of compassionate ground, maybe out of human, out of just
you say the government is not serious, because the issue here is no work, no pay, and that's the constitution, that's the law.
Well, yeah, but that might be the law, but you also have to look at the demands of ASU, over the years. The ASU has got a legitimate, reason to have gone to this to this strike, and I just think that teachers shouldn't be treated in the same way, that every other worker in the country should be treated. I think we should go beyond the letters of the law and look at the spirit of really taking care of that base, the people that are molding the future and the character of our children. But if you ask me, those negotiating on behalf of the federal government are not serious, basically because their children are not even in these schools. They're in private schools around the world. So why do they worry? Why should they bother? I'm not trying to put the blame on the federal government. Yeah. I think I've told you before that, look, I also think that ASU should look beyond these negotiations, beyond the lettering and the technicalities of the issue, and look at the spirit of the issue, which is to look at the fact that there are our students children who are at home. Now they say that they are going to actually skip an entire session. Imagine the kind of graduates we are going to produce that are going to miss an entire session of learning. I think this is very important. This goes to the very heart of our existence, and I think ASU should be able to give it a human face if government is not doing that.
While you say that, Emmanuel, let's not forget that around these universities, the economies operate because some economies around these universities operate because of the schools. So the transporters, those selling food, those providing electricity or what you have you in those towns, they're basically not operating right now.
Yes, and sometimes I ask myself, I don't know whether I'm naive about it, but you see, some of these universities should be able to even operate. You're right, there's some kind of economy, some kind of activity, some money generating activities around some of these universities, whether it is in their farms, whether it is in the some sort of businesses that universities run, whether it is the kind of essential services university operates. I think if they look inward enough, some of these universities can actually be self-sustaining. That does not take away entirely from the role of the federal government that set them up. But you're right, apart from the crisis of having those students at home and what it portends for the economy, what it portends for even social life and family life and all that, shutting down this school does not help anyone. Throw them open, and like you're saying, Kenneth, some of the activities that actually go into making the economy more buoyant, could be restored, and that would be maybe another form of thinking around the issue of shutting down indefinitely and not going to work.
Aside that, I read an article where it said universities all over the world try to finance themselves. They get into things, and what they get from students and government is even little compared to the monies they make, and they should look at the system of university system here should be looked at in that angle. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for